Now, looking to the south as Hurricane Ian strengthened into a major Category 3 storm today as it made landfall in western Cuba. Now, all eyes turn toward Florida as the storm makes its way there. And it is expected to continue to grow, possibly to a Category 4 strength. As of right now, National Hurricane Center saying it will make landfall as a Category 3. Authorities there have already started canceling flights, ordering some evacuations as well. We'll have more on how Florida is preparing in just a moment. But first, Matt is here to get us the latest information on Ian's path. Matt, what's that 5 o'clock update say?
Yeah, boy, I tell you what, things have stayed the same at 5. We'll cover that in just a second. As you mentioned, though, Ian made hurricane landfall this morning near Coloma, Cuba. So it did hit as a Category 3. Notice the winds, 125, 952 millibars in terms of the pressure when it hit. It's now back over open water, so this is where it starts to breathe again and perhaps start to strengthen. So you look at the presentation, a well-defined eye. We've got the outreach heading out into the southern Florida Keys right now. Winds at this 5 o'clock update, though, at 120. North at 10 is the movement. That stayed the same as well. We do not want this to slow down. And one of the keys is the pressure still at 952. When pressure falls in hurricanes, that means it's strengthening. You often get the winds as a precursor of winds kind of strengthening over the next couple hours. So where does it go from here? Track has been slowly sinking down to the south. So Tampa right here, where you see that little Tampa Bay area, down towards the south is Fort Myers. That's the main track where they're expecting the center of circulation to pass over. But you notice the cone of uncertainty still. This could wobble off towards the north or down to the south, expected to be a Cat 3 or 4 at landfall. And then it slowly crawls up, perhaps heading back out over the Atlantic before making another landfall back into the Carolinas. In terms of presentation, though, it's got lots of outflow. It's breathing well. There's no shear to deal with, so this is going to continue to strengthen. It's got another 8 to 10 hours out of open water here where it could continue to strengthen. You notice the thunderstorms continue to develop pretty nicely around that eye, which continues to show the sign of a very powerful storm. The rain band's already heading the Keys. It's now heading into Fort Myers, southern Florida, seeing heavy rain. You get strong winds with those as well. That real strong wind is right near the center of circulation, but we've got tropical storm force winds some 200 miles out from the center. There's your hurricane warnings now extended, as Betsy said, down towards Fort Myers. Tropical storm warnings. It's not going to be a slack of a system out towards the west either. Here are your tropical storm force winds in terms of the forecast. Look at the coverage of this, taking up almost the whole state of Florida here as this continues out towards the north. They're expecting not just wind, but storm surge is the biggest thing with this. Basically, that push of water as that wind heads north. Tampa should be the recipient of a northeast wind if this passes to the south. So storm surge not going to be a big issue there, but boy, will it be down towards areas near Fort Myers, expecting an inundation, some 8 to 12 feet, perhaps more of water coming in, and that's water that doesn't go away until the system lands on top of rainfall. We've got a forecast in terms of how this impacts us locally coming up in just a little bit.
Yeah, Matt, certainly this is where we start talking about don't focus on the details or the technicalities, focus on those impacts, and it will be a high impact storm for Central Florida, most certainly. We'll catch up with you for our forecast coming up in just a little bit. Meanwhile, Hurricane Ian is still bearing down on Florida. The storm is expected to continue to strengthen overnight tonight. 129-mile-per-hour winds, that's a Cat 3. 130-mile-per-hour winds, that's a Cat 4. So we're right on that line. For people in the storm's path, obviously the time is now to prepare, and that time is quickly running out. NBC's Chris Pallone joins us live now from Tampa with the story. And Chris, I imagine folks in Tampa may actually be kind of watching warily with hopeful thoughts at this point.
Yeah, and the governor is warning them not to get too hopeful. You just never know with something like this. But yes, you're right. As your meteorologist pointed out, if this goes to the south of here, it certainly will be good news in terms of storm surge here. To stay put or get out, that's the decision that millions of people across Florida and up and down the Gulf Coast are trying to decide right now. And they better decide soon, because we will start feeling the effects of Ian in short order.
In Tampa, people are scrambling to get ready for Ian.
This one does feel a little bit different. We felt that way in the past before, so it's just better to be safe than sorry.
But many are finding empty store shelves, long lines for supplies, and gas pumps running dry.
This is the 4th gas station we just tried. All of them seem to be like out.
By midday, city sandbag stations had reached capacity. State officials continue to urge people in low-lying areas to get out. While the wind will be bad, they say it's the water they fear that will be deadly.
And you're going to end up with really significant storm surge. You're going to end up with really significant flood events. And this is the type of storm surge that is life-threatening.
2.5 million people up and down the Florida Gulf Coast are under evacuation orders, prompting bumper-to-bumper traffic on many highways.
If people are told to evacuate by their local officials, please listen to them. The decision you choose to make may mean the difference between life and death.
The storm slammed the western tip of Cuba before taking aim at Florida. Ian now predicted to make landfall south of Tampa. But the state's governor doesn't want anyone to get complacent based on the forecast.
Just because the eye's no longer on Tampa Bay, one little wobble can change that.
Thousands of National Guard troops are active, and state and federal agencies have supplies staged throughout the region to help with recovery after the storm moves through.
And as for that federal response, President Biden said today that he's spoken to several Florida mayors who are potentially in the path of this storm. FEMA has more than 700 people pre-positioned in the state already. They're packing about 3 million meals and 3 million liters of water to help out when this is all over. Betsy, back to you.
Chris, certainly our thoughts are with those folks as they get ready for a pretty rough 48 hours and beyond. Chris Pallone live for us in Tampa tonight.